Hi there guys, got part 2 here in making a removable bottle valve for the Leshiy 2. Before we begin, I just want to say sorry for the lack of videos recently. I've been really busy in the workshop. I just haven't had time to sort of make and edit them. But hopefully now, fingers crossed, we can get back to semi-normal. And we're going to start with the Leshiy 2. So I think the bottle valve's done and working now. We can see here that the rifle's full of air. That's the regulator gauge obviously, and then on the back there we've got the pressure in this cylinder here, but obviously we've got no bottle on the bottom, so we can add and remove a bottle as we need to. Now on this best fittings bottle in particular, this valve is fitted with a pin that's too long. What this means is as we screw it on, it does start to hiss until it seals on the O-ring in here. However, that doesn't happen with an FX valve. All that hissing was the bottle valve, this part on the end of the bottle, was opening before it had chance to seal on the threads of the bottle adapter. But once the O-ring's sealed, it stops leaking. And with an FX bottle that doesn't happen at all. The valve pin is the correct length, so it opens only when it's sealed on the end. But as you can see there, we've got 150 in the bottle and cylinder configuration, and then if we wanted to, we could remove the bottle again. Small hiss that time as the O-ring deseats before the valve closes. And then that's the bottle removed. The rifle is still pressurised obviously, as there is a one-way valve in the valve here. However, if we did want to degas the rifle, it's just that grub screw there. So next I'll show you some footage of me making this little stainless steel part here. And here we are set up in the lathe. Now I've just got some 30mm stainless in there, and we're just turning the OD down to a nominal size. This is 303 stainless, so it is fairly turnable, although the cutting oil just makes the finish a lot better. Once we've got the OD established, we can drill out the back ready for the thread to be put in. Now this has got to be a flat bottom hole, so what we're doing is just drilling the bulk of it out. Then we're coming in with a boring bar and just cleaning up the bottom of the hole. And as we're doing a M18 by 1.5 thread, we're just boring it out to 16.5mm. The quick tip to find a metric tapping size is just take the pitch away from the thread denomination. So an M18 by 1.5, we just take 1.5 from 18 and we get the tapping size. That works for conventional taps and single point threading, although form taps are slightly different. But if you know what a form tap is, chances are you don't really need to hear that tip. Once the hole's been bored out ready for tapping, we can turn our attention to the face seal. This is just a little relief cut for the O-ring to sit in, and it puts a little squeeze on the O-ring to get it to seal, and then we can proceed with the tapping. This is probably one of the trickier threads you'll do on a lathe, a blind hole with no thread relief. What I like to do is get the DRO set up and then just run the lathe into a 0, and whilst the lathe's coming to a stop, wind the tool out. It takes a little bit of practice and you've got to really pay attention to the DRO, but as long as you stay focused it's not too bad. After the thread's cut, we can just cut the little chamfers. We could have done this before, but I wasn't sure how the thread was going to come out. And then once all that's done, we can turn it round and turn our attention to the bottle end. So first off, we've got to turn a section of the front down to 12mm so that we can stick the M12 by 1 for the bottles on there. With stainless, I've always found it to be better to take multiple light cuts than a few really heavy ones. If you take too much in one cut, the tool builds up heat and you start running into issues. Once it's turned down though, we can turn our attention to the threading, and again we are using a full form insert. But once the thread's all cut, we just clean it up with some Scotch-Brite, a tri-cornered file, and then brush it out using a toothbrush. These threads have to be nice and smooth, as when we screw the bottle on, it is under pressure, so the threads do rub against each other quite heavily, and any rough patches will be amplified when we screw our bottle on. That's all the lathe work done, and we can finish it off in the mill. So first of all, we just got to drill the hole. That's an off-centre hole, so we can't do it in a lathe. And as it's a round part, I've just got it set up in 2 V-blocks. And then the final operation is just to mill some flats on it so we can get a spanner on there and tighten it up. So I held the threads in a collet block And this is a 4-sided collet block, so we just index the collet block in the vise, milling off a flat each time. Right then, so you just saw me make this piece here, and I think it came out quite nicely. The only thing I probably will change is the position of these flats. They are a little far back, so I'm going to move them forward, and that's just going to make it easier to use a spanner on them to tighten them up. Other than that though, I think the design's pretty much there. Although before I make any for sale, I am going to have to test them. I also need to make sure there's no restrictions in the valve itself and the rifle fires and shoots as it should. Once I'm happy and everything works as it should, I'll make a batch and I'll stick them on eBay. And finally, I'll just do a demonstration of me fitting it. It's almost identical to the one that's already on the rifle, although instead of screwing a bottle on, we just screw this piece here. So first of all, we'll just take some silicone grease, wipe it around this O-ring here. I won't bother putting the cap on for this demonstration. Push that in like so. Then we take our fill port, put that in the back there. Take this large O-ring, small amount of silicone grease around it. This is the same O-ring that's on the original one. So we just put that around the back there. And then screw the back valve on. Then whilst holding the fill port, we just nip it up. Now if your fill port's a little stuck in there as you've done it up, what you can do is just rotate the valve a little whilst not holding onto the fill port. What that'll do is cause the whole assembly to spin. You won't necessarily undo the thread, but you'll just get this part in here to move. Now our fill port goes in nicely. For now though, we'll just leave it in, and then finally we'll just screw the bottle on. So there's the bottle on, and we've got some air in it. Not that much though, because obviously we degassed the cylinder entirely, so this bottle was only at 150 to start with, and we've had to split that pressure all throughout the Leshiy 2. So obviously we've got quite a lot of pressure drop in the bottle there. But we can just fill it up as we would the normal Leshiy 2. And then finally, I'll just give you a shot of it on the back of the rifle. Now this bottle here isn't the best to use on a Leshiy 2. It's only 220cc and it is slightly longer than the 300cc bottle that's fitted on some of the FX rifles. Unfortunately though, I don't have the 300cc bottle anymore. I did sell it, but what I'll probably end up doing is making myself a new cylinder for the Leshiy anyway. But there we have it, all fitted to the rifle. Little testing to do, but hopefully it should work out fine. The only thing I will mention is it does move the bottle forward a little. Now, I've got quite big hands and it doesn't really bother me that much, but my hand is in contact with the back of the bottle. But there's not much I could do about that, as I wanted a fair amount of thread on the end here to make sure the back of the bottle was nice and secure. Apart from that though, I'm really happy with the way it came out. So that's going to about do it for this one guys. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.